Never in my life did I think I would end up as a teacher, but from the moment I first stepped into a classroom at Erasmus University College, I knew that this is what I was meant to do with my life. And so I've never looked back since that first class, which was now 8 years ago.
I also had this feeling, okay, something is happening here. I have to question myself, what I'm doing, why I'm doing things. And then, yeah, I got this mission in my mind that was what I also wanted to bring the students. So the experience that they do matter. I think that's important. How do you make your students matter? When they're in the classroom, they're not just listening to you. You also need them, or you kind of must need them to make your education work.
In some ways, we always say that teaching is the best way to learn. So probably the teachers are the best students. But what about the students? You as a student, you start to learn, what does it mean to be a teacher? Or what does it mean to be a teacher of my own learning journey?
We were focused on how our understanding of how people learn inside their heads could be geared at an understanding of the impact of learning on society.
I'm a big fan of the philosopher Erasmus, and what he already wrote 100 years ago was, if you want to do proper education, you need to ask the students what they want to learn and what they're passionate about, and help them to accomplish what they want. And that is exactly what we are doing in the CARE program.
CARE and experimental pedagogics is a unique opportunity for students to really understand in depth how the journey from an idea to a transformation in society occurs, how the brain processes that information, how that changes our sense of identity, and how phenomenologically it transformed our desires and our purpose and our agency, how that works in a group setting with group dynamics and with group conflicts, and then how that translates into a societal context, how that clashes and forms structural issues of oppression, issues such as gender and race and socioeconomic class, and then finally how all of that is compounded by global problems like technology and climate change.
So this is the CARE project. Very long title, community-oriented, action-based, real-world education program. I'm going to try to really unpack this long title in the next slides, and I'm quite confident that by the end of the presentation it will all become a bit clearer. So, who am I? I'm Lorenzo Ducchi, officially educational developer at ErasmusX and researcher. And as you can see, my love for colorful jumpers hasn't left yet. So, nothing much to talk about me. I'm really here to present the CARE project. Before really going into the CARE project itself, there is something I want to say, because I can honestly take very little credit for the execution of the CARE project itself, because it's really thanks to these three wonderful women, I believe, that the CARE project really happened. We have Jeannie, which I called our master chef, the person coming up with all the recipes and executing all the ideas perfectly. Then we have Ruby. Ruby has got a gigantic network in the south of Rotterdam, so that allowed us to really get in touch with all the high schools and the high school students there. And then Lisbeth, our lighthouse, guiding us in these ups and downs of this very long journey. But so from now on, when we think about the CARE, let's think about also these three wonderful women on this slide. But now, yes, thank you. So now let's go straight into the CARE itself. What is the CARE about? So again, I'm going to start by explaining to you, our starting point, our thinking behind this project. I'm then going to show you a bit of an overview of the course itself, how students then experience the CARE, and next, what's next? So, where did we start? I think the starting point was because of a certain set of tensions we felt in education. In particular, those are the three tensions I believe that drove the initial ideas behind these projects, which are, on the one hand, you often tend to very much isolated in your own disciplines, while completely surrounded by so many other disciplines. Just look at where we are. And some other tension we tend to see is this big gap or divide that we still perceive, regardless of our university motto, between really university and the society at large, which then kind of transferred itself into the third big tension, the gap between theory and practice. We are learning so much, students, but what are we actually doing with the knowledge that we are gaining? So, considering these three tensions, our idea was the following. Let's develop a training for Erasmus University students in the art of PPL, which is just a project-based learning framework. So let's train the Erasmus University students so that they can become the coaches and the mentors of VMBO high school students so that they will be able to tackle societal issues. Wow, what a task. Well, that's our initial starting point. However, we are all familiar with this big, gigantic bubble. So because of COVID and all the strain that put on everyone's lives, unfortunately, we really couldn't continue, or we had to stop for the time being our collaborations with the high schools. So we fully dedicated ourselves to create a fully fledged training for the Erasmus University students. So, and this training is what I'm now going to refer as experimental pedagogics. So our idea, let's develop this fully fledged training to really see and explore what kind of interventions our students will develop, and then document those interventions with blogs, with videos, as well as with scientific papers. So I've been talking a lot about the CARE project, about this concept called experimental pedagogics, but how does it look like? So in a nutshell, this is how it looks. We call it experimental pedagogics because our theme was education. And we wanted to put the student at the center of their own education innovation. Normally, it's us, staff, ErasmusX, whoever, really thinking about how the education of the future should or would look like. Our goal was, let's get the students for them really to develop the innovation they find valuable and relevant now. So we developed this whole, you really don't see the colors, but this middle line, the education track, for students to really learn about educational and pedagogical theories from a diverse set of lenses. So we moved from a very cognitive, psychological perspective to get them to explore education from very different angles, philosophical angles, phenomenological angles, but also moving really into the implication that education has in society and on a very global level. This really inspired them to develop their own project, that problem-oriented project work track, where students had to immerse themselves in their own community to really find the pains, the so-called educational pains their own community was feeling, to really then develop an intervention. So there they could really have their own ideas and have the space and time to implement it. And all of this was supported by a reflection track, which contain a lot of exercises, diaries, workshops, really for the students to really get a bigger sense of what is going on and try really to tie all the knots and the dots together. So this is the overview, but then how did the students experience it and what did they do? So this is just three of the projects, three of the interventions students developed. And I wanted to show it to you guys because I think they showcase a bit of the variety and diversity of all the ideas the students have. So on the one side, a group of students decided to develop a Dungeons and Dragons games to teach sex education differently, to really explore different areas and sex education from different lenses. Then you had a group of students who, because of one of them was a Polish person, they decided to really devote themselves to explore about how primary schools in Poland were doing, especially during the COVID pandemics. They did surveys and they've been talking with a lot of teachers and students, with more than 500 students' responses in one of their surveys. And then we have a group of students who decided to focus on the decolonialization of the history curriculum. So they've been working together with the history faculty to try to, let's say, tweak, change, adjust a course to make it a bit less decolonial, if you can say that. But that's the idea, just three different projects. But if this is the outcome, how did the student actually experience the whole CARE project itself? And I summarized the student experiences in these 5 elements, so to say, because you can really see and tell the students really enjoyed being able to do something with their hands, being immersed in their community was something really energizing for them. So that gave them a sense of empowerment, both personally, professionally, and academically. Obviously, they were working in groups, so many groups with so many students, and they constantly had to engage themselves with stakeholders and people outside of their group. So that was a very enriching experience for them to see how different perspectives helped really to bring their ideas to life. Obviously, because of the focus was really on education, you could really see how their views on education changed over time, how they started to see education as something bigger than simply an institution with walls, tables, and chairs. And the attention we placed on reflection made sure the students really developed their reflection skills really critically, but also very much in depth. So this is in a nutshell how students experience the CARE project. So what is next? This is what I call phase one. So we didn't manage to reach out to the high schools because of COVID, but we developed our pilot. It was an extracurricular pilot of 16 weeks. And then we have a set of interventions that students developed, and we documented with those different interventions with different videos. And if you just go on YouTube and you write CARE Experimental Pedagogics, you really are able to see the videos that describe what students did and what they went through. But we are also writing academic papers because I think it's very valuable what we are doing, and so it's important for us to document everything we are doing. But this is where we are right now. So what is really going on next? That's where phase two is coming into handy, because we are now starting to really work together and collaborate together with high schools, and we got the Comenius grant, which really enabled us not only to develop this extracurricular project really into a minor, but also to open up a summer school, probably in 2023, to really bring this whole, let's say, design to the teachers across the entire country. So, this is just exactly what we did. The pilot, now the Comenius grant, and hopefully in the future, the minor, summer school, and publication. Just from a time perspective, because I like to put things on a time perspective, this is how it looks, working on the paper, developing the minor, and next, the summer school. So now I want to thank again the three wonderful women here, as well as the Trust Fund, the DNI, the college, and the School of Philosophy for really giving us the space to make this happen. And thank you again, guys, for really being here and listening to me. And I would say now is time for the next speaker.
Yes.